Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Independence Day. Happy 4th. Hopefully you're enjoying so far and have some plans going forward as well for the day. I said earlier, if you're going to be sitting out by the pool or barbecuing, fire us up on the TV during the afternoon. Great day of racing up here at Saratoga. If you can make it up here, it is a gorgeous day. Coming up a little bit later on the show, we'll be joined by Tom Amello. We'll talk some wagering. We'll talk some preview of some of the action, a little review as well, a little review and preview, as it were, with Tom. We'll also be joined by Cate Masterson, the director of the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. We'll get a little update on what's planned for the season going forward for the museum and Hall of Fame. Of course, Hall of Fame Day inductions August 1st. So keep that in mind as well. But we're going to start things out taking a look at one of the big stakes today, the Suburban. Love to see the Suburban on July 4th. And Antiquarian is in there from Centennial Farms. And when he sat down, I said, it's been a while since we have Don Little in, the president and CEO from Centennial Farms, but wanted to talk about Antiquarian, certainly one of the players this afternoon. Don, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I think it was the Woodward when Antiquarian's dad, preservationist, ran in that race and became a Grade 1 winner. So hopefully we can get close to that.
We have some of those memories coming up a little bit later, in fact, because, going over your list of prominent horses, Wicked Strong, Corinthian, King Kugat, Preservationist. It's been a nice run for Centennial, and it continues this afternoon for Antiquarian. For people who aren't familiar, talk a little bit about Centennial Farms and what was the impetus for starting, and how'd you get into the horse racing game?
Well, it's sort of been a family interest for generations. My father had his first racehorse when he was 16, and my aunt was very involved and still is very involved in racing, Patricia Mosley. She had a nice horse by the name of Topsider, who was a great stallion, and I guess you could say we're the most experienced partnership group. I don't like to say oldest anymore, but the most experienced. It started in 82. Of course, Cock Campbell was the innovator in 79, and we've kept the tradition going for my generation, and I'm proud to say that my son, Donald Little III, has now joined the team, and we're going to keep it rolling, which is great. And we've won some big races, and thanks to Dr. Steve Carr and Paula Parsons, who runs our farm, helped select the horses. We've won the Belmont, we've won the Whitney, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Antiquarian's father, preservationist, won the Suburban and then went on to win the Woodward. And, we've had a lot of great horses over the years, and it's been a lot of fun, and 42 years and still running.
You're based over in Massachusetts, and so I'm assuming memories of Suffolk and Rockingham?
Well, actually, Suffolk and Rockingham, the family did own Suffolk Downs for quite some time with my uncle and aunt, Jim and Patricia Mosley. And my other sport being polo, involved in horses. A lot of my good polo horses came from Suffolk Downs and Rockingham. And that tradition is going along as well. But racing's always been in the blood, and it's a great sport, great memories. The enthusiasm and excitement cannot be explained until you participate, and there are many ways to participate today, thanks to partnerships and even individual ownership.
Yeah, the partnership side of the game has certainly flourished over the last 10, 12, 15 years. And it's always fun. I like to watch a lot of races from the first floor of the clubhouse, the big screen, which when they redid the first floor, they at least kept that area there. because a lot of the partnership groups will come out of the paddock and kind of stand there, and you can just see how much fun it is for folks to be involved, to get into the paddock, and then have a horse live coming down the stretch, the partnership game. And up here at Saratoga, there's also a big social aspect to it in the mornings and whatnot, to go out to the barn and look at the horses.
Yeah, I mean, and I was talking to Johnny Velazquez this morning and how great racing is, and you compare the jockeys to athletes in the NHL in particular. They're real down-to-earth human beings. They're great with the public. The jockeys walk into the jocks room after giving autographs. I mean, there aren't a lot of professional sports that you can be involved in that close with the athlete.
Yeah.
And in this game, you can. And everybody's open. Everybody has a great smile on their face and just loves being in the social atmosphere. And, I mean, it's a sport second to none.
You mentioned, when you mentioned this, it got me thinking. So retired thoroughbreds make good polo ponies?
Very good. I mean, their foundation.
Do they have to get retrained because there's a lot of contact?
There is some retraining, but there's not, it's all in the mind.
All right.
And if you go back in history, you look at these famous races, the Whitney, the Belmont. Well, the Whitney family played polo and owned racehorses. August Belmont and Belmont. And I know that Del Carroll used to have horses on the backside that he'd race. He might grab out of the stall, get on, and put him on the polo field. And Alan Jerkins was a great polo player too.
That's right.
And polo and racing go together. I mean, you look at Sierra Leone, bred by Jack and Debbie Oxley, who Jack was very instrumental in polo for years, and his family. And Peter Brandt campaigned it, who was very involved in polo for years. So the history goes back, and Centennial's really focusing on that connection. And we're very involved in Florida, Wellington, at the National Polo Center. So anybody that wants to come to some polo games and go to big races, give us a call.
Yeah, there you go. And it's polo certainly at Saratoga has been an integral part over the years as well. All right, let's talk a little antiquarian this afternoon in the Suburban. Again, it's fun to have the Suburban launching on July 4th. And I pulled up a couple of replays from the season so far for Antiquarian. Now, ran in the Belmont up here at Saratoga last year, and then was off until this race we're going to see here back in April at Gulfstream. Antiquarian is going to be the number 7 horse. Seasonal debut, gets it done nicely. Give us your thoughts coming off the long layoff like that for the start of this season for Antiquarian.
Well, of course, we wanted to give him a little bit of a foundation race after being off for some time. And following the race, I was talking to Todd quickly. He said, wow, they showed a little bit more speed than I thought we had. So it was a great setup for our next start, which was in the Blame, where he finished a nice second, closing second.
Yeah,
actually.
We've got the Blame as well.
And,
Mystic Dan was the winner there, last year's Kentucky Derby winner.
Right.
Antiquarian is going to be the number 3 horse here, running second. So you got the foundation. I'm assuming you were happy with this result and appreciate what it brings coming into third start of the year this afternoon.
Well, it was interesting. Before the start of this clip, Johnny said that he was rolling nicely, and Churchill has a little bit of a jog at the top of the stretch where they put the starting gate for the 1.25 mile race. And there was an ambulance and a horse ambulance tucked in there. And Johnny said he actually sort of paused for a minute and he jogged to the outside. He said he doesn't do that. He wins the race. But to see him fight down the stretch in a little bit of traffic and then come running again to restart and re-break at the 8th pole and get there and coming was very impressive. And I think he's doing great. He's been training well up to this point. It's a salty race, as Johnny said this morning, but if he can run back to the Blame and maybe a little bit better, which we think he can, and the added distance, we belong.
He's still relatively lightly raced.
Yes.
And comes in with a nice workout right up here back on June 27th, third start back of the season. And again, stretching out to the 1.25 miles this afternoon. Tried the 1.25 miles last year in the Belmont Stakes before he went to the sidelines. But again, now a nice little 4-year-old in a developing handicap division that last year's 3-year-olds have been made this year very intriguing in the handicap division. I think he's one of the interesting players. But what are your thoughts on the 1 1/4 this afternoon?
I think based on his pedigree, his father's pedigree, his sister is doing very well in the female 3-year-old division. Fondly is the name of it.
Okay.
That's the half sister to Antiquarian. So the 1 1/4 should not be an issue. I don't think, Todd doesn't, we don't have any, and Johnny's confident about it. It might actually help us, I think, a little bit.
Again, he's one of the real players for me in a very intriguing and contentious race. So wish you a lot of good luck this afternoon. And you mentioned it a couple of times already. I years ago, I was watching, I'm pretty sure it was the Tonight Show with, 8 is Enough. The star, regardless, I'm blanking. His Vince was his kid's name. Anyway, I'm blanking on the name now. But he was a horse player too, and his son was there, Van Patten, Vince Van Patten, and his father Dick Van Patten. There you go. Yeah. Who was a horse guy, and he and his son were on the Tonight. I'm pretty sure it's the Tonight Show, and somehow they got on the horse racing topic. And Dick said, Vince is new to the game, he enjoys it, but for me, I look at the past performances and I think, I remember when his father ran and his grandfather and his and at that time I was still a young guy just getting into the game, and I thought, that's interesting. But now I'm in the same boat, and it's interesting here, as you say, preservationist, the dad of Antiquarian, and we're going to take a look here. He's got a couple of connections to the race this afternoon. First, we're going to take a look at 2019 and winning the Suburban. Now, this was down at Belmont Park at the time, but a nice win by preservationist for Centennial. And again, being the dad of Antiquarian, Suburban victory, going to the Suburban this afternoon for the son. But we're going to take a look. You mentioned it earlier. Not only has he won the Suburban, and again at Belmont, but he has a nice stakes victory up here at Saratoga. We'll take a look also at the Woodward with preservationists. So it's, as an owner, it's got to be fun to have kind of the family line follow through like this.
It really is. I mean, that's the special part of the game that adds to it and elevates it in terms of the excitement and anticipation, if you will. And to see those generational things, like any sport, you can go, you look at the Kachuk family that just, the son just won the Stanley Cup 2 times in a row, and dad's in there, the generational thing. And if you look back in the horse industry, lineage genetics really holds true. Yes, you have the one-off every now and then, but genetics are very key in this business, and it's very important in the sport of polo too. I mean, I mentioned Topsider. I had a stallion that was by a stallion polo horse that was by Topsider, and he's one of the most influential stallions in polo today. And it's 3 generations.
Yeah.
So it's just that little extra, spoon of sugar in your coffee, if you will, to sweeten it up a little bit better.
Yeah, that's got to, as I say, it's got to make it fun.
It is.
To see him come back. And as I say, there's the tie-in with won the Suburban, but also won a nice big stakes race up here at Saratoga. And today we bring them together with the Suburban being run at Saratoga. And before we let you go, I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple others of your nice runners pulled up. 2007, as an owner, this has to be one of the highlights when you win a Breeders' Cup race. Breeders' Cup at Monmouth, it's Corinthian getting it done in the dirt mile. Give us some memories there.
Well, I remember the morning of the race, I was at Jimmy's barn and we were watching him let him out to the track, and he said, well, I'm going to do something a little different. And I'm watching it, and we're standing on the backstretch, and all of a sudden he starts picking up the pace, and he literally blew him out down the backside the morning of the race to see how he handled the dirt. And then Jimmy and I and his groom, Junior McFarland, all 3 of us looked at each other with a big smile on our face and said, I think we got this covered. And Junior was going like that, like he was swimming in the and it was great. And of course he proved us right.
Yeah, that was one of the notable parts about that Monmouth, the crazy weather. that day.
Awesome.
But that is clearly there is lineage as well, because that's clearly a move from Alan Jerkins to be out there blowing your horse out the morning of the race. Yeah, guys, love that. And I wanted to look at one more because this was kind of history making as well. Yeah. You won the Belmont Stakes with Colonial Affair, and I think Julie Crone's still the only female to win a Triple Crown race.
That's
give us some memories of this race.
Well, I remember actually standing behind the box area, behind a metal post, and as he was coming down the stretch right here, I started moving closer and closer to the box area where everybody was sitting, and to see him just draw off. And I mean, Scotty Schulhofer, who trained him, was very, very confident before this race. And Betty Moran, who was a wonderful woman in this industry and was a supporter of Centennial, she owned quite a few shares in Colonial Affair, and we all celebrated back at the barn. And Dad's holding the trophy above his head when it was pouring rain, saying nothing but sunshine in the Big Apple. Those are the memories that stand forever.
Yeah, and as they say, it's been a great roster. I didn't pull up a replay, but I'll let you also talk about your top money earner, Wicked Strong, won just under $2 million. Memories on that one?
Well, Wicked was very special because we named him right after the Boston Marathon bombing, and the partners agreed to donate a portion of his earnings to the One Fund for the victims, which was very significant. And unfortunately didn't quite hit as a stallion. He was pensioned last year after standing at Spendthrift and in Pennsylvania. And it all started in Massachusetts, where he got named with the Jacobs family at the Bruins game, first Bruins game after the bombing. And he's now retired at our home in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and has had some visitors. And he's living out his retirement in good stead. And my wife, Holly, is taking great care of him.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. And again, those are just a few of the really nice horses you guys have had over the years. Antiquarian, adding to that, currently he'll be in the Suburban later this afternoon. Don, we wish you a lot of good luck. We appreciate your stopping by. Don Little from Centennial Farms. But again, good luck this afternoon going forward.
Seth, thank you. Always great to be here.
Appreciate it. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, Tom Amello will join us. We'll talk a little handicapping, as I said, a little preview, a little review. So stay tuned. Racing Across America continues.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
For centuries, the bond between horse and human has been forged in trust and hands-on care. Thoroughbred racing is combining that tradition with cutting-edge technology to raise our standards even higher. New investments in wearable biometrics, advanced imaging, and AI help optimize our safety programs.
That opening quarter mile was a quick one.
Every day, a commitment to improving their care. So win or lose, it's safety that runs first. To learn more, visit safetyrunsfirst.com.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. And again, happy 4th, and happy 4th to Tom Amello joining us this morning. Happy to have Tom on board. He'll be plugged in regularly throughout the meet. And you ready?
I'm ready. Yes, it's a happy 4th. Been a very wet trudge to get here.
Yeah.
But,
Wet and hot.
in the yin and yang of weather, we're due for a good summer.
Well, I've said to people the last few weeks, weather tends to average out over time, rainfall annually and temperatures. And so that things have been kind of quirky up to this point. I'm hoping it moderates for the rest of the summer. I'm knocking wood there.
And I think we should celebrate 49 days of racing from this hallowed venue. And we want to thank Naira for rebuilding Belmont and giving us this opportunity to have racing at this time of the year. I understand. I saw David O'Rourke talk about the fact that when Belmont is Belmont, it'll be back to Belmont and back to 40 days at Saratoga, which I think is interesting and positive, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you build a facility like that, you want to take the advantage of, the time you have down there. They're going to be down there a long time, but there's a short time every year of nice weather when you can get turf racing and whatnot. So I think they're going to get back to this schedule, the typical New York schedule, downstate certainly. But yeah, we take advantage at least one more year of the situation of the rebuild.
Yeah, and starting early, it's kind of pre-preparation for the 40-day marathon, if you will. 4-day-a-week racing is kind of comfortable.
Yeah. All right, let's get into a little bit of review and preview. Yesterday, we talked about on the handicapping show earlier, but we're going to take a look at the 6th race from yesterday because there was a buzz horse, and as Anthony Marmino said earlier, as advertised, Iron Orchard got a little bit of the buzz, and yesterday did go off at 60 cents, no audio, 60 cents to the I'm talking to the guys in the control room. We're talking in my ear. 60 cents to the dollar, and breaks out of the gate around Iron Orchard. Again, very impressive in debut yesterday.
Well, and he's the 2-horse here, or she's the 2-horse here. And, Seth, you've heard me say that when there's an international good thing, I raise my hand and say, why didn't anybody call me? If everybody knew, why didn't they call me? But this is interesting because I actually had some push on a Gargan horse who went fast. But at the time, they didn't know the name, right? And so when this one showed up and I saw the June 2nd 34 work, I figured this possibly could be the horse. And then when David Aragona had him at 9-5, I said, okay, this is the horse. And this is as professional a debut. And you pointed it out yesterday, and you talked about it today. This is a restricted maiden special claiming rate. And what this gives us an opportunity to do is to talk about how important it is to read the conditions.
Yeah.
And not only did this horse fit the condition, meaning it was eligible to run, because at some point in its career, it had been for sale for $50,000 or less. If you looked in the field, there were a couple horses significantly less than the $50,000 price. I think there was one that was sold for $12K. So whenever I'm handicapping a race like this with restrictions, the first thing I go through is to see, well, who was actually bought for 50, who was bought for less, and then the 500,000 price jumped off the page, and you're supposed to ask yourself, how the heck is this horse in this race? Correct?
Yeah, and it's a new wrinkle this year. New York breds, the restriction doesn't apply, so he sneaks in at the not sneaks in. They looked at the conditions and said, "We got one in here. Let's jump in and take advantage of that." There's a couple of there's at least one, maybe a couple of those today as well. It's an interesting new wrinkle in that you're entering these races thinking, yeah, I don't have to go against the heavy hitters, and then you get the $500,000 horse that worked 34 in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as the season goes along. we got one look yesterday. As I say, there's at least one look today. So we'll start to get some ideas on how this may play out. But you're absolutely correct. You have to look at the conditions. And then if there's one like this in here, we'll see if that starts to make a trend in these.
I was
races.
near shocked that 34 made it into the form.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes those 34s now are 39.
Yeah.
But good for them for that. Now, as an aside and as an extra wrinkle here, Iron Orchid had 3 works prior to its debut race: June 2nd, June 11th, June 25th, all in company with 3-year-olds. And I thought it would be useful to know the horses you work with, because they're probably going to get a run back. And I'm not saying that they're going to win because they worked with this horse, but either they were competition for him or he was competition for them. So on June 2nd, a 3-year-old named Gellhorn was the workmate for Iron Orchid. Gellhorn. And that horse was a first-time starter, finished second in neck on debut for Gargan. So Gellhorn has some ability. On June 11th,
I think the invasion is start. If people get,
there we go.
There's a helicopter hovering very close. I'm wondering if it's one of those military. Yeah. Oh, it's 4th of July, so it's landing in the infield as we talk.
I'll just move my lips.
I just wanted to alert if people could hear that.
Okay. Usually it's the water trucks and the horses. So on June 11th, 3-year-old Landman Friday worked in company with Iron Orchid. And this one was a maiden turf winner at Gulfstream at 20-1, which was a nice price and, again, has some ability. And the third workout, June 25th, an unraced 3-year-old named Celestial Speed. And this is from Top Speed Sprint sire Vacoma. And this is an unraced horse. So Gellhorn, Landman Friday, and Celestial Speed were the company stablemate workers for this stakes-bound Irish Orchid.
Celestial Speed being the unraced one by Vacoma is the interesting one in that
at
bunch
this
for
point,
me.
Sure.
All right, let's take a look at some of the stakes action from today and maybe get some thoughts. The Manila there's a couple of 3-year-old turf stakes today.
I'm sorry. Let's talk the Schuylerville first.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't write it down on the sheet. It's just the Schuylerville today is a field of 6. I managed to watch all the prep races here, and I honestly think that if you go back and watch the race by the 2 King Solver, you'll find that this horse, 5-1 from trainer Rodolphe Brisset at Churchill, went 5.5 furlongs in a field of 9. This one was willing early, made a move early, but was not hard pushed late. Was allowed to settle and run on, and looked like a pretty good education race. I like the fact that he was in the race early and was on his own without being heavily asked. And trainer Brisset's, he's 32% second time out, and here we are at Saratoga. Got several works into this race, and the switch from Florent Giraud to Flavien Prat is a very positive move with Brisset.
And relatively speaking, it's a decent little buyer too, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, he certainly fits in the race. Yeah. We'll talk as we go on. I have concerns for my own handicapping and my own bankroll when trainers have 2 or more horses in a race. And I know, our good friend Nick Kling used to say, shut up and handicap and do the work and make the right pick. But I think they make the races a little more difficult. George Weaver has 2 in here, the 5 Miss Magical and the 6 Simone. The 6 is from that hot sire Vacoma. This one showed no speed from a sire that does have speed. The interesting thing to me is that this horse is very crooked in his front left. And if you watch this race and you watch the head-on, he was game in this race and fought on. And I imagine we're going to see more speed. It's going to get a nice outside trip under Franco. But he's the pedigree play here. Miss Magical, this is a daughter of good magic. This one pretty much lost her race at the start and then chased the future star in Angel Gift.
Yeah.
So, these two horses, 4-1, 9-2, are interesting because neither one of them got to run their race on debut. And I think in these races, we sometimes tend to look at what they've done instead of projecting improvement of what they might do today. And sometimes that affects price.
Yeah.
But the horse that I think to beat in here is the 2 King Solver.
All right. The Manila, 3-year-olds on the turf. Again, a couple of those stakes today for that subdivision that I like very much. I like Zulu Kingdom and Reagan's Wit to me are the 2 to beat here, and I'll box those up, and exactly you won't get a whole lot of money. They're kind of obvious, but what were your thoughts on the Manila?
Well, my first thought: 2 Browns, 2 DeVoes, one and 1 West Point. So there's no question that Zulu Kingdom. This horse is the class of the field. Has never run an off race. Has always moved forward on speed figures. And this is Chad Brown. He ran May 3rd. This horse has had 20 furlongs worth of works in 28 days. You think he's fit? So here's a horse who on paper is supposed to win this race. He gives weight to Reagan's Wit, who ran a new top last out. And I agree with you that on paper, this looks like a 2-horse race. And if I was going to go anywhere else in this field, I'd use the other Chad uncatalogued.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to make an exacta box there, those 2, I think, or you don't have to go too deep in this race if you're in the verticals.
I do think Jack Saratoga's runner's interesting in here. Tis Dashing might be an interesting little
18
player.
furlongs, 26 days. Sharp 5 furlong works. Race over the turf. You're getting a fair price for a horse to run well. Johnny V has handled the riding. I didn't look up what the switch to Castellano might be, but it's an interesting race. And what we have to talk about a little bit is that the route races yesterday were all front end.
Yeah.
All front end. And you get those I'm going to call spurts here where you don't want to believe what you're seeing, but if you don't believe what you're seeing, you're ripping.
Yeah, exactly.
You're ripping.
9th race is the Belmont Derby. Again, 3-year-olds on the turf. And from your notes, it looks like you're with Anthony Mormino here with the Euro transplant.
When I looked at the race, when I went through the race, these are all 3-year-olds. They've all earned their way here, if you will, to a certain degree. But the first thing I saw when I look at Luther was Henri Matisse, Jean Quille, and Camille Pissarro 2 races back in a Group 1 at Longchamp, going a mile. And so I went and watched the race. Now, the interesting thing about the race, and I encourage folks to watch races, is that Luther was not a threat to the winners, but he was finishing fast. And the 5th place finisher had a little bit of trouble late, almost, which cost him 4th place. So Luther was really going to run 5th if the other horse was not blocked. But he was finishing like a runaway car. And the thing that's interesting to me, if you look at the pedigree, and I don't know if, I presume Anthony talked a little bit about the pedigree. You got Frankel on the top, who won 10 Group 1. The Dam Sire, Cityscape, was a multiple group winner, won the $3 million Dubai duty. The Dam was unraced. The second Dam was unraced. But the second Dam was a full sister to a horse named Fame and Glory, who won 4 Group 1s. So the pedigree here suggests a 1 1/8 is not too far. I was intrigued that David Aragona made him 6-1. Okay, I was surprised, and the question is, did David make him 6-1 because he wanted to make them lower, but didn't think the public, you know what I'm saying? So I just think this is a very live horse in here. And, you know, we'll get to talk about the betting later on. This horse at anywhere near that price is a win bet for me. And I'm going to make exactas and reverses with the 4, 5, 6, 7, which is the bet I make. I don't make place bets.
All right. And let's take a quick look at the Suburban as well. I was taking a shot against Locked in here. I took Awesome Aaron, who seems in good form.
Yeah, I just think that you could pretty much say Locked is extremely formidable on how he comes in, and the fact that the pace of the last race was just so slow.
That's fair.
Okay, and if I'm going to use anybody else in this race, I was going to use the 7 Antiquarium, and Disarm is a horse I always love, and he always disappoints, but he always earns checks, and so I would. It's
a contentious race.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've seen some. I saw, Anna Marie's a solid horse, and been the distance. Been further, but who knows what you're going to get here? But I think that if you want a cheap a horizontal ticket, you can single lock. You could get out of this race with going too deep if you want to, and then make some win bets on horses who are a little longer odds as you go that way.
Yeah, it's a fun card today, no question about it. Let's hit on a couple other notes here. Cate Masterson will join us after the break coming up, director at the National Museum of Racing. And as I was going over events at the museum, preparing last night, you're involved.
I'm involved.
People want to swing over across the street on Saturday mornings.
I'm involved. They run what they call the Saturday Social, and I can't think of any more person to be on that Saturday Social than Social Tom. No, I'm being facetious here. We've been doing this, or Brian and Kate have allowed me to talk to their guests on these Saturday morning socials, and it's really a two-pronged event. We'll talk the stakes race, and folks will have past performance for that. And then we'll spend the rest of the time talking about wagering, answering any questions anyone has about coming over to the track, regardless of your experience. And for the most part, we've got a handout that we're going to use this year. It's called Heading to the Betting Window.
All right.
Heading to the Betting Window.
Because we talk about it all the time. We make picks in here. We don't focus enough on the wagering aspect. I think it's helpful to maybe give people a little bit of background there.
If you can help an individual cash a ticket or scream because they're close, you're making a fan.
Yeah.
You're making a fan. And the other thing is, we know that at the Racing Museum and here, our audience are savvy people. And savvy people, it's a game of opinion, and you learn the game by talking to folks with opinion and learning how to form your own. And so that is the skill and the craft of the handicapper until we go to fixed odds, right? It's a pari-mutuel game, and whether we like it or not, unless we're on the same horse, we're enemies, frenemies, if you will.
Well,
so
I like friend because if you're on the other horse, you're just putting more money in the pool that I can scoop out.
There you go. There you go.
Tom, appreciate the visit this morning. And again, we'll have you plugged in regularly throughout the meet. Folks can catch you Saturday mornings across the street at the museum. And we will talk more museum and what's coming up this season with Cate Masterson right after this. So stay tuned. Happy 4th, day 2 of the July 4th meet up here at Saratoga. Back in 2.
I think you should be sitting here with.
It's been referred to as possibly the best equine-themed gift shop on the planet. Impressions of Saratoga. Impressions of Saratoga, celebrating the Saratoga and equestrian lifestyles. It's your #1 choice for Saratoga souvenirs, apparel, and gift shopping. We have gifts for the entire family, and we're pet-friendly too. Visit us online at impressionssaratoga.com or come on down. Impressions of Saratoga, 368 Broadway, downtown Saratoga.
Why just watch the races when you can be in the middle of the action? For nearly 20 years, Bonaventure Stables' share-based ownership program has made thoroughbred ownership affordable for the everyday fan. Ownerships of 5 and 10% are now available on a nice selection of horses. As a partial owner with Bonaventure Stables, you'll enjoy all the benefits afforded every owner. Visit with your horse in a private stable area. Greet the trainers and jockeys in the paddock. And when your horse wins, savor the moment in the winner's circle at Saratoga, Belmont, Aqueduct, or wherever you bring home the prize. Based in historic Saratoga Springs, Bonaventure Stables has been training winners and creating memories since 2005. Learn more, see available horses, and meet our team at bonaventurestables.com.
Welcome back. As promised before the break, we're going to talk a little National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. If you're not familiar, it is right across the street from the track. So if you're coming up here, make sure to make a plan to stop over at the museum. If you never have, we'll talk a little bit about it. We'll show some video and whatnot of what's over there. It's a great stop when you come to Saratoga. And who better to talk to than the director of the museum, Cate Masterson. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you on board. And I have known you for years. When you sat down, you mentioned Ed Louis. You used to be an Ed Louis person and then moved on and got more directly involved in the racing game with Kieran. Talk a little bit about your evolution to becoming the director at the museum.
Absolutely. I'd love to. So Ed Louis was, a local PR master, and animals and babies could get the media anywhere. And he represented the New York Racing Association with his wife, Maureen. So I worked for them as an intern, got a full-time job, and I saw the front side. I saw Aqueduct, Belmont, Saratoga, corporate, media. But I wanted to know how the horsemen and the front side work together, the racing office. So Kieran McLaughlin was looking for an office manager. And I said to Ed and Maureen, I said, I really want to get back in the barns. And so I was with Kieran for 8 years.
Yeah, nice. And you're local, right? Grew up in Troy. So yep. What was your connection, if any, to the horse racing game growing up?
Honestly, the television, media and advertising, the summer place to be, the place to be and be seen. It's post time and party time. And my parents were like, it's no place for children. So, which is just such an ironic part. Yeah. So my birthday is Labor Day weekend, August 31st. And for my 16th birthday, I'm the youngest child of 4. So they said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to the races. So my father was a state trooper, and he knew a couple people, and he got us some seats. And we went to the Ripe Tomato for dinner, and I've never missed a summer since.
Yeah, very good. And give us, how long have you been at the museum?
Since 2016. So I started there as development director. We actually did the jockey statues my first year, the colors of the horses.
Which is a great addition.
Well, I mean, people said, we don't know where you are. We're right across the street. So that's like an indication. And now we have a really great campus. We have the Against All Odds statue from Arlington Park on one corner. We have Seabiscuit on the other corner.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I had Tom Rooney from the NTRA in here, whose family goes back in horse racing. He sat down. He said, I was over at the museum yesterday. I'm walking around and hey, there's our silks. That was nice. All right, let's get into it a little bit because, again, we have a nice big season. Saratoga in the summer means horse racing, and that includes the museum. Oh, let's toss in, though, because the off season, you can go over and visit the museum anytime. But the last couple of years, you've had a nice event in the wintertime, kind of a little fundraiser event.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
It's called Countdown to the Triple Crown. It's in February. One year it was like -10, but we still had 250 local people, and it's like a $25 ticket price.
Yeah.
So it's just to get people in the museum. Our off-season hours, so we consider June, July, and August 7 days a week, 9 to 5. And then from Labor Day to Memorial Day, basically, we are Wednesday to Sunday, 10 to 4. So we're open year-round.
Yeah, and again, the February event is a lot of fun. I made it last year. This year there was a conflict; I couldn't make it. But it's a nice crowd. It's a lot of fun, and it just in the dead of winter, it's nice to horse racing and good party over at the museum.
It's a silent auction item, and it's a fundraiser for the museum. But really, what it is it's people from across the country who have items that they wonder if they're collection worthy, and if they're not, we have an option to donate to our education department, so we can take them out to schools and show them to people. And our third thing is to donate them for a fundraiser for the museum. So we get the coolest things. That's the auction, and you can get $25. You can, buy a piece of Santa Anita.
And again, keep that in mind for February. Also, I made a graphic with the website address. You can keep up with all the events and all the news by going to the museum website. So keep that in mind as well. And as I say, keep that in the back of your mind, the off season. To stop at the event coming up typically again in February, but coming up in July, 75th anniversary. So talk a little bit about that and what some of the plans are coming up over the summer season.
Absolutely. We were incorporated in 1950 in Saratoga Springs. We actually first opened the doors in the Canfield Casino in 1951.
I was going to say, it wasn't originally across the street.
No, but it was in 1955. That's the location after we moved from Canfield Casino, and that was the first year we had a Hall of Fame class.
Oh, okay. And I pulled up a little video. Last year, a couple of years ago, was over, and so some of this stuff may be a little bit out of date, but it's just a basic look. I went through the museum, but I also wanted to show it because speaking of the Hall of Fame as compared to, 10, 15 years ago, has moved into the 21st century with the video Hall of Fame plaques, which are a great addition because it used to be a traditional Hall of Fame like you'd find in any sports plaque, but the Racing Hall of Fame has active members. So there are changing things, and that is what you can see, the video screens. You can keep up and look at the Hall of Fame members, big races and whatnot. It was a great addition. But also in the Hall of Fame room, there you go. You have the movie now, and that was a great addition as well. So really, the Hall of Fame, you say 75 years old, but over the past 10 years or so, really we have become into the 21st century with the technology and whatnot.
And really, it's thanks to our board of trustees and who spearheaded that campaign in 2020. It was called the Hall of Fame Education Experience. Was John Hendrickson? He was the chair at the time.
Certainly. Worth noting, John Hendrickson as a player with the backstretch folks and whatnot. In Saratoga, we will miss John Hendrickson, no question about it. But again, if you stop over at the museum, looking at some of the museum items that, I'm from Amsterdam, and so Sanford Farm, silks and whatnot, kind of fun. And there are the traditional things you would find in a museum anywhere, but as I say, 21st century as well. But also coming up, as is typical during the Saratoga season, a lot of events coming up, and I made a little slate with some of the events, but why don't you go through? We talked with Tom, regularly scheduled things, morning social on Saturdays. Tom will be part of that, Tom Amello, and the farm tours look like a Saturday regular event as well.
They are. We do the farm tours once a month on Saturdays.
Okay.
But, today, for those of you who are coming, I know my boyfriend, Mike Denio, and his brother are coming for sunglasses, a giveaway. The museum's never done a giveaway. So for our 75th anniversary on opening day, which is, we consider Saratoga opening day next Thursday, July 10th. Okay, July 10th. We with paid admission, you get a free picnic blanket, and it has the 75th logo on it. So that's the first time we're doing that. But we have a ton of activities. We really have some great educational programming. We're bringing in Hall of Fame members for an elevated Hall of Fame Stakes weekend. That's August 1st and August 2nd. We do have the farm tours, Saturday morning socials. It's free admission, complimentary coffee and donuts. A great way to see the museum.
And again, that's Saturday morning. Some of the other ongoing things, tours of the Oklahoma track. I think people will appreciate that. And Tom Durkin gives some museum tours as well.
He does. So Tom started quite a few years ago giving a tour. So now he only does them on Thursdays.
Okay.
And what we added this year was Angel Cordero has a tour in August, and Ramon Dominguez is going to have a tour at the end of the summer.
Very good.
So yeah, and they have their own spin on it. So Tom loves to say, I don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So, our museum educators, when you get a tour, or our docents who do an incredible job, you get the facts. But if you have Tom or some Hall of Fame members, they may sway a little bit. So,
and I know some of the folks who work over there. You have a great staff over there as well. Looking at some of the other events that are coming up, the Keeneland traveling exhibit that looks at the African American involvement in the sport. That looks like an interesting addition. You have a Root and Riddle tour. That, I think, sounds like fun as well, coming up on the 22nd. Fashion show, is that a fundraising event?
Fashion show is a fundraising event. You mentioned the Keeneland Heart of the Turf Racing's Black Pioneers. That's going to open to the public next Thursday as well, and beyond all summer. We also have a look through the eyes and life of Charlotte C. Weber.
Oh, nice.
So Live Oak stud, her career, her racing career, she's tied to Campbell's Soup. It's a really great interactive exhibit.
And I saw the Andy Warhol soup can take graphic. I like that. That was very clever, no question about it. You've kind of alluded to it. Hall of Fame comes up as usual. Beginning of August, Friday, August 1st, will be the Hall of Fame ceremony, which is now, it was a great move over to facing Tipton Pavilion, because it just offers more room. And, you mentioned, typically, if you go over to the Hall of Fame event at the start, they'll bring up all the former Hall of Fame members, which is great to see them all lined up. But that will be even more inclusive this year, it sounds like. Smarty Jones will get in. I recommend, if people are planning to go, get early, because the place gets crowded. And I think, again, with the former Hall of Famers coming this year, it sounds like the event will be even more popular.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're planning a poster giveaway on Saturday, a meet and greet, but we do have 25 retired jockeys and trainers, Hall of Fame members, that will be flying in from across the country.
And that sounds like a great event. Certainly ties in with the National Hall of Fame race over here later that day, typically. We were talking when you sat down, you mentioned obviously the museum. Again, if you're not familiar, it is literally right across Broadway from the racetrack. So you won't miss it if you come up and look. And I definitely recommend you put it on your agenda if you've never been. If you have been, make it another visit. But you mentioned over here a relatively new addition in the backyard. There's the Walk of Fame here as well.
Absolutely. The New York Racing Association has been wonderful partnering with us. We're trying for that next generation of kids and families, getting them, to become a fan. So across from the Jockey Silks room, we have a Walk of Fame space. You can go in, you can put on VR goggles, you can get our Hall of Fame guide. We give some discount passes to the museum. There's a passport book that the educators put together, historic facts throughout the track. You can do it if your kids are getting antsy and want to do something, take them to get the passport, and then they get a really cute little toy horse.
Nice. And you have kid-friendly events across the street as well.
Absolutely. We have a horseplay gallery.
Yeah.
So you can bring your kids in. The movie, everyone loves the movie. I mean, kids just get mesmerized. Screens come down.
Yeah, if you've never been, as I say, this is a relatively new addition in the Hall of Fame room as well. The movie's great, as you allude to. The set of screens come down in the middle. There's the movie there, then the screens go up, and it's immersive all around you. It is well worth the visit just to check out the movie. Again, give us the hours throughout the summer.
Yeah, we're open 7 days a week, 9 to 5.
And one other thing I wanted to talk about, you talked about the this summer Hall of Famers, and you'll get an extended group of former Hall of Famers coming in, but a kind of an addition that I guess is going to be a regular from what it sounds like, but maybe not every year, but the event down at Oaklawn, the Hall of Fame event down there.
So we took that this year.
Okay.
So Oaklawn, we mirrored it right after. So Oaklawn for the last several years. I mean, the jockeys and the trainers, they are the, athletes in the sport with the horses. So they've really created this model, and it might travel. It's here this year for our 75th. Next year is Tampa Bay's 100th anniversary. So we're in talks that the Hall of Fame members may go there. So it might travel throughout the country.
Yeah, nice. That's a great idea to kind of spread it around for folks who, for whatever reason, can't make it to Saratoga. But if you can, again, I recommend stopping across the street, plan your day around a visit over there. And I guarantee you will not regret it as part of Saratoga. Has been now for 75 years.
Yeah.
And it's a very important part of Saratoga. Coming up on the Hall of Fame inductions, which are a big part of the Saratoga season as well. Keep that in mind. And again, if you swing by the website, you can find a list of all the events coming up and keep up with all the news as well. And mark your calendar for that February fundraiser. That is a lot of fun. Cate, appreciate the visit, and hats off to you and everybody over at the museum on a great job.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Look
All
forward
right.
to seeing y'all.
We will take a break. We'll wrap it up because it is the end of the morning programming here from the backstretch. Always happy to be here. Day 2 of the Saratoga meet, or technically the July 4th weekend, but I'm kind of counting 44 days, so day 2, one way or the other. But thanks for tuning in. Morning programming on Saturday morning, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Handicappers Award, 10 a.m. Racing Across America. So we'll see you then.
For centuries, the bond between horse and human has been forged in trust and hands-on care. Now the sport of thoroughbred racing is combining those timeless traditions with cutting-edge technology to raise our standards of equine safety to the highest level. Wearable biometric devices measure subtle changes in a horse's stride to help optimize safety and performance. State-of-the-art imaging technology helps pinpoint areas of potential concern for early intervention by expert veterinarians. And the sport's new independent regulator, the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, is using AI and enhanced data modeling to help prevent injury.
Opening quarter mile was a quick one.
From sunrise to sunset, there's an ecosystem of trust and care and a commitment to well-being. So win or lose, it's safety that runs first. To learn more, visit safetyrunsfirst.com.
You've been watching Racing Across America. Racing Across America has been brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.